Mount Ararat at 4,630 meters altitude, Part 12. There are only two known animal species alive today that are over 3 meters in height. One is the elephant, and the other is the giraffe. But by the looks of the superstructure, both at its debris field at 4,605 meters and inside the cavern at 4,630 meters, its rooms, and what were the height of the ceilings of these rooms, and especially the entrances to these rooms and buildings, and that there are many of them, it appears that at the time of Noah, elephants and giraffes were not the only living animals over 3 meters high. The mystery here is that there are a lot of these rooms, tall rooms, at least 50 of them in both the superstructure at 4,630 meters and in its debris field at 4,605 meters. Today there are only two animal species that by size and height are over 3 meters high. So what were these other animal species, elephant size and bigger, that were sheltered in these rooms on Noah's Ark? The only possible explanation to this mystery would be that if today there is only the elephant and giraffe higher than 3 meters, at the time of Noah, there were at least 50 species of animals the size of elephants and giraffes. Species that have become extinct in the past 6,000 years, or believed becoming extinct. Among these, giant bears, giant deers, saber-toothed predators, giant sloths, woolly mammoths. If some species of dinosaurs were still alive at the time of Noah, Noah's Ark could have carried them, maybe not as full-grown adults, but of younger age, and the same with mammals and other reptiles living at the time of Noah. If they were taller than 3 meters, instead of taking them on the ship as adults, they could have been taken when younger and smaller. Someone would say that maybe these big-size rooms with high ceilings were not for tall creatures, but just tall buildings with floors, and the animals that sheltered were average-size animals, as that of lions, and anything smaller. No. Why? The entrances to these rooms vary between 2 and 3 meters high, but some of these entrances are higher than 3 meters. Whatever passed through those entrances was at least the height of elephants. In the superstructure building, both at 4,630 meters and its debris field at 4,605 meters, there are over 50 of these rooms, and the ceilings of the superstructure at 4,630 meters vary from 3 to 5 meters. But there is also another reason why the superstructure contained supersized animals that today are extinct, or at least believed extinct. The superstructure building at 4,630 meters is built over a platform, built between the superstructure and the ship's roof, and this platform is held by pillars that hold the weight of both the platform and the superstructure above that platform. To have that platform, and especially the pillars holding that platform, the building of the superstructure built over that platform, was no storage building. And those rooms inside the superstructure at 4,630 meters and the buildings of the superstructure at 4,605 meters were built to shelter big-size animals, elephant-size, and even bigger. Noah's Ark carried every animal species on Earth at the time. to place big-size animals that, because of their weight, could break the bottom hull of the ship. The only place to place them would be on a separate structure above the ship, so they distribute the mass of their weight all across the ship. They could not have been placed inside the barge structure. Otherwise, the barge would sink under the water level or break at its bottom hull. Worse would be to place them over the front decks or under the front decks. If the ship would not break at its bottom hull, it would have its front side and front decks underwater. But before that, the ship would capsize. The ship, though appearing as a barge from superstructure to rear, its front side with front decks from bow to superstructure is arched shape. Place the weight of the animals of the superstructure in this area, and the ship would capsize before breaking its bottom hull and sinking. The best place to put animals of supersize would be over the ship, on its roofs, in a separate building sustained by a platform held by pillars. A platform placed between the superstructure and the ship's roof, and in the area of the center of the ship. Though with Noah's Ark, this superstructure building is not actually at the ship's center. The barge structure that makes about 65-70% of the ship could compensate that weight. The reasons why the barge at the breast field at 4,605 meters has an abundance of small buildings and even more rooms and even more small animal shelters than the superstructure at the breast field is because of the same distribution of weight all across the ship. To build a ship with this distribution of weight from animal and building weights would mean incredible mathematical calculations. Without modern calculating tools, this is not possible. Noah's Ark was the biggest ship in history until 1850. Because of its design and that distribution of weights all across the ship, and of having floated over waters in unimaginable conditions of a world submerged under waters, it could have been the most advanced ship built till our modern present-day times. If not in building material, because made of wood, in ship design, for that purpose it had, and the weight it carried, and how that weight was distributed all across the ship, and under almost impossible conditions of navigation, of that of a world underwater. Such a ship construction would require today's knowledge of shipbuilding. It is believed that civilization began somewhere around 3,500 BC, and it began with the invention of agriculture. Building construction began later. Before 3,500 BC, what existed was a primitive society coming out of the Stone Age. With Noah's Ark, this belief today has been proven wrong. To build Noah's Ark before 3,500 BC would mean that an advanced civilization existed. A civilization that, compared to our times, would be almost as our present day, if not as our present day civilization, but having existed before 4000 BC. And with the Great Flood being a global event, that civilization by which peoples could build a Noah's Ark was not an isolated community, but a global community of nations. What began in 3500 BC was a rebirth of civilization from a global day after that destroyed the world under a global flood. But surprises don't end here. The ship had an iron exoskeleton, and this would prove an industrial civilization in 4000 BC. This I will explain in another episode, and still further surprises. The ark carried a machine, appearing made of metal and with gears, that today I have still to figure out what was its use. That too in another episode.